Welcome, everybody, to the Beers and Bubble podcast. My name is Josh. I'm joined tonight by my good buddy, Gabe. Gabe, how goes it, my friend?
It goes well. It goes well. Sorry I missed a week there. Missed a podcast.
Oh man, I was so mad. I stayed up every night last week just screaming into my pillow, cursing your name. That's not true. But
yeah, it goes well. How does it go for you? You went on a long little family voyage, huh? Did you go somewhere? Where'd you go?
We did. We went up to Kentucky. I went to the Ark Encounter in Kentucky. And Creation Museum. So not super long. It's like 4.5 hours from us, but
okay.
That was our spring break trip, and we were super excited about it. But we got like 2 inches of snow when we were up there, so not much of a spring break, traditional spring break as one would think spring break would be. But it was really awesome. It was super cool. Have you been to the Ark Encounter?
Yeah, I went a few years ago. Oh man, it's probably been 5 years now, but yeah, it's pretty cool. I did all the zip lines there. I did the zip lines at the Creation Museum with a massive Amish family. So it was kind
of are they allowed to use zip lines?
Yeah, they were digging it, man. They were all about it. I was like really worried every time they get on a zip line. I'm like, man, they all have really big beards, and I'm like,
sure.
At least the men do. And I'm like, man, if those beards get wrapped up in those little pulley things,
it's over.
You are done.
Yeah.
But it was really
cool. Can you
cool.
imagine the shame of an Amish man to have his beard ripped off in public? I mean, that would be the most shameful thing one could imagine as an Amish man.
Yeah. You're just
de-bearded,
like, suspended up on a cable by your beard. But no, it was a lot of fun. Did your kids like it? Did you guys walk around inside the big boat, the big ark?
We did, man. It was seriously, it was a high of 20 degrees the day we chose to go. It was like this fluke cold front that came through northern Kentucky. And so we didn't really get to do anything outside of going actually into the boat because of how cold it was. But man, it was impressive. I don't really think that I was prepared for all that I was about to see in the sense of just how much there was to see and how big the thing was. I mean, we spent literally all day there, and we probably could have spent more time there if we wanted to. But it was incredible.
You really need like 2 to 3 days to really take it all in. And then
I think so.
Right up the road, you've got the Creation Museum, which personally I liked a little bit more than the Ark Encounter.
Yeah, we went the day before. We drove up on a Monday and got to the Creation Museum at like 1 o'clock, 1:30, and we stayed till they closed at 5, and that was not enough time at all to see the Creation Museum. But it was really, really, really cool. Yeah, there were some parts of the Creation Museum that I think I preferred more than the Ark. But
true story. I actually wrote the Ark Encounter people, and I was making YouTube videos of traveling and stuff with our family, kind of vlogging and stuff. I told them, I got a YouTube channel and it's got, a couple subscribers, and we would like to go and visit the park and make a vlog about it. So they actually wrote back and they're like, yeah, we want to give you and your whole family passes and meal vouchers. And the only thing is, you have to wear these press badges. So we had these lanyards they gave us at the gate, and it said press on it real big. So me and my mom, Stacy stayed back at the house. But so me and my mom and our 3 boys at the time all wore press badges as we walked around the Ark Encounter.
Amazing.
Yeah, and Creation Museum. So it's kind of cool because people were like looking at us like they're from the press, and here I am just have my GoPro and I'm making like a vlog with it and stuff. But yeah, that was really cool. Just getting that kind of like
awesome.
That treatment. People were absolutely looking at a 6-year-old Micah and like, why is he wearing a press badge?
Do you still have the video up on your YouTube channel?
I think I might. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll have to put like a link in the show notes or something. So.
I definitely have the ziplining one. I have that. You can see me ziplining with Amish people.
Yeah. That's awesome, man.
On my YouTube channel. Yeah.
Well, very cool. What about you guys? What have you guys had going on?
Oh, not a whole lot, man. Well, a whole lot, but yeah, just everyday lives. You know how that is when you have a growing family.
I do know how that is. Yes. Yes, I do.
It's like, Stacey and I look at the calendar, we're like, hey, we have nothing going on this evening. That's exciting. And then I leave for work. By the time I get back from work, it's like, what happened? We had nothing going on this evening. Why is everything in the world going on this evening?
Yep.
Yeah. I realize that adulthood is just trying to figure out what to make with chicken or ground beef every single day of the week. That's like,
Yes.
that's
Oh,
all
I
it
feel
is
that.
now.
I
Yeah.
feel that. Yeah.
So you're
Is
just
it
like,
ever, does this experience ever happen to you? Your wife always asks you, what do you want to do for dinner this week? And you just go, I don't know.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you typically just circle back around to the same meals you do most weeks.
It's like the same 4 ingredients. Yeah.
Yeah. Just
for
varied
us,
up a little bit.
Yeah. For us, it's some like really bad Caucasian version of like Mexican food that we put together somehow.
Man, as long as you get cheese on there, that's Mexican, dude.
It's like cold flour tortillas with ground beef, sour cream, like cold cheddar cheese, shredded. That's it. It's like, okay,
I don't see
dinner.
a problem with that. I don't see a problem with that.
No, it's very delicious. Good. That's why we do it like every other night. Yeah.
Yeah. I tell you what has helped, and if you're a dad who has multiple kids, listen up here, mister. My wife got me a Blackstone flat top griddle for Father's Day 2 years ago. And now I usually make at least once a week a big meal on the Blackstone that we'll cook up, and we will make leftovers of it. So if I cook it on a Sunday night, we'll do leftovers like Monday. So I'm talking like hibachi. Talking hibachi, man. Fried rice, dude. Yeah. Fried rice on the Blackstone, legit. I'm talking
Blackstone's the gateway. That's the gateway.
It is, dude. It is. You get into the Blackstone world, and then my daughter is obsessed with me doing smash burgers. So she's always asking for smash burgers, which
like Culver style.
Yeah,
those are good,
dude. And then breakfast on the Blackstone is like the greatest thing in the world.
Man, you might as well just live out on your porch with that Blackstone.
I think I do, actually. I have a little cot by the Blackstone, and I kiss it goodnight and tuck it in under its blanket.
Yeah, something happens like when a 40-year-old man's like brain, when they just like look at meat in the store and they're like, yes, I want to bring that home and smoke that. Like I want to spend. True. I want to spend 14 hours of my day smoking
watching that brisket. Yes.
Yeah. It is. It's this funny thing.
When you turn 40, you have a choice. You can either get really into World War II or you can get really into smoking meats.
Yeah.
Now, fortunately, I
went the World War II route. I went the World War II route.
Yeah, I did both. So anyway, I've seen Band of Brothers like 5 times. So anyway. Yeah. Well, good stuff. Yes. Our topic tonight is a little bit inspired by the trip that me and my family just took. And we've talked a little bit about some of these topics, but we've never actually done it like we're doing it tonight. And that is, we're going to talk about the flood of Noah, and we're going to do it in 3 parts. And the first part that we're going to talk about is life before the flood. And there's a lot to get in here, and I think if you hear this and you go, man, life before the flood, there's just, you just turn to Genesis 6 and you read, there's verses, whatever, no big deal. But actually, as we're going to see tonight, as we get into these verses in Genesis 6, there is so much here that I think sometimes when you're reading through the book of Genesis, you can just brush over. So, Gabe, you want to read Genesis 6, 1 through 8? And we'll kind of talk through this as we introduce what life was like before the flood.
Yeah, I got my Bible here. Genesis 6, 1 through 8. In the time when men began to multiply on the earth, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were attractive. It uses the Hebrew word tov. Tov there is like good. They're goodly. And they took wives for themselves, whomever they chose. And the Lord said, my spirit will not live in human beings forever, for they too are flesh. Therefore their lifespan is to be 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterwards, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. These were the ancient heroes, men of renown. And the Lord saw that the people of the earth were very wicked, and that all the imaginings of their hearts were always of evil only. And the Lord regretted that he had made humankind on the earth, and it grieved his heart. And the Lord said, I will wipe out humankind, whom I have created, from the whole earth, and not only human beings, but animals, creeping things, and birds of the air. For I regret that I have ever made them. But Noah found grace in the sight of the Lord.
So it's very interesting. Right from the get-go, first verse talks about mankind began to multiply and daughters were born to them. And then it says, the sons of God saw that the daughters of mankind were tov, or goodly, or beautiful, or
smoking.
So, yeah, smoking, yeah. So that's an interesting one right off the bat, right? So we have to kind of start wrestling with that. What's up with this? Sons of God, daughters of mankind, and somehow their union produced powerful men of old, the men of renown. So what in the world is that, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of an interesting idea, right? We also have this idea of God saying, I'm going to set a limit on human lifespan. So that leads the question, okay, how long did people live before he did that? And like, when you really break down verses 1 through 8 of Genesis 6, what you're reading about is a completely different type of world with all sorts of different civilizations and crazy stuff that, honestly, and just gut level honest, man, I don't think I've ever really thought about what life was like on the earth before the flood. I think I would read through the book of Genesis and see the genealogies between Adam and Noah and just sort of think that that's not really that long, right? There's Adam's, kicked out of the garden, and then we've got Noah just a few chapters later, right? But if you add those genealogies up, that's 1,656 years. So that's the time span between 2026, the year we're living in now, and 370 AD, which was like the ancient Romans, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Have you just spent a lot of time thinking about this, or are you like me? You've just sort of thought, that's just a couple chapters in the Bible. It's not 1,656 years.
Yeah, I've spent a considerable time thinking about it. I think so. Yeah. It's a lot going on, and I've pondered the question, like, did they have technology like we have now? Did they have some version of like what we have now? That what did the world look like before the slate was wiped clean? So if you look at like technology in the past 250 years, really since the Industrial Revolution, it's like all it took was 150 years, and we had some pretty amazing breakthroughs, like 1,000 years worth of breakthroughs. Like, and they have over 1,600 years here that could have developed. Humanity develops, but there's a lot just packed into those 8 verses. It's like, it talks about like their imaginings. That's a fascinating word that's being used there. I don't know if you want to try to unpack it now.
Sure. Okay, yeah. What is that word?
It's machashavot in Hebrew. It's like it comes from the noun chashav. I'm sorry, it's a verb, chashav, and it means literally to weave. So you remember and later in Genesis when Joseph is approached by his brothers, and Joseph reveals his identity to his brothers, and he's like second in command of Egypt, and he says, "Don't worry, because what you meant for evil, God meant for good." He uses the verb twice there, chashav. What you schemed for evil, God was scheming it for good. But it's like, it's actually the modern Hebrew word for computers. So if you go to Israel right now,
interesting,
you use that word, it's the word computer. Yeah. It's like it's like almost like calculation, like calculating, scheming, imagining. So it's, if you put that all back into that word, it's like, he saw that the people on the earth were wicked, and that all the schemes, all the like calculations of their
They're like
hearts,
plotting to do evil together. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like evil only.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
That's really interesting.
So we'll get into it a little bit when we talk about this idea of the Nephilim and the mighty men.
Mm-hmm.
So we won't go too far into it now, but what do you take of, and if you've got your Hebrew Bible in front of you, sons of God, daughters of mankind, and then Nephilim, like what does that mean?
So it's saying the B'nai Elohim.
Okay.
Which B'nai would be like the sons of Elohim is God.
Okay.
And then it talks about how they, I mean, it seems like it's using pretty explicitly like sexual language there, that they look at these people. But then it goes on to, and it goes right into verse 4, the Nephilim were on the earth in those days. So you could deduce that, okay, because the sons of God had, children with the daughters of men, maybe the Nephilim are a result of that. Is one school of thought. Another school of thought is just like, it's starting a new thought here, that there was also Nephilim on the earth.
Right.
But I tend to think that maybe the Nephilim are a result of the daughters procreating with the sons of God, because the Hebrew nephal, it literally means to fall down. So to pluralize, if you want to say multiple people who have fallen, you would say it in Hebrew Nephilim. So
the fallen ones is essentially what Nephilim. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, those who have fallen. Yeah.
Interesting.
So, yeah, I think what the author of Genesis is trying to tell us is that there is a sub-race of people called the Nephilim who inhabited the earth as a result of the B'nai Elohim procreating with the daughters of men.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. So the sons of God would then be what we understand as fallen angels who rebelled against God. Is that what we're understanding that to be? Because I'm just trying to unpack it. Like,
I mean, it seems
sons of God is a term we see in the book of Job when the sons of God presented themselves before the Lord.
Yeah.
Right. So the sons of God would be spiritual beings that are rebellious against God.
They got to be something other than human. I mean, I can deduce that, because otherwise it would just say, and men started to procreate with women. But it's saying the sons of God started to procreate with women. And then it goes right to verse 4. And then the Nephilim were in the earth those days. So you can kind of connect the dots and say, wait a second, the Nephilim must have come from that relationship because they're fallen ones. But
that's a fascinating idea, especially because I'm trying to look at this verse. So it says the Nephilim were on the earth both in those days and afterward when the sons of God came to the daughters of mankind. So in the book of Numbers, when you have the Israelites going into the land of Canaan to spy out the land, they talk about the Anakim, the Rephaim, and then those who appeared to be like the Nephilim, a race of giants, right? So there's nothing in the Genesis text that would say that the Nephilim are necessarily a race of giants. That kind of is suggested, where it says the powerful men of old, the renown, right? But it isn't until later in the Bible where you see the Nephilim referenced again.
Yeah, it's with the story of the 12 spies that go into in Numbers 13. They came back and they said, all the people we saw in it, the land, are of great size. We saw the Nephilim there. And it's usually a parenthetical statement that goes on. It says, the descendants of Anak who come from the Nephilim. So it's interesting. They're seeing really big people and they're correlating them with the Nephilim. So right away, they must have this understanding that the Nephilim were a large group of people. And the Anakim, the descendants of Anak, according to them, are descendants of the Nephilim, which opens up this whole other discussion of like, wait a second, the flood happened. Right. Does that mean that some of the Nephilim survived the flood? So that's a whole other rabbit trail there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it could be that, or it could be where it says in verse 4 of Genesis 6, the Nephilim were on the earth both in those days and afterward. So it could be that it happened again, right? That the sons of God came into the daughters of mankind again after the flood. So there's that absolutely, idea, right?
Because they appear again in Joshua 11. It talks about they're living in Hebron and the surrounding hill country. Eventually they are defeated by Joshua and Caleb. But
well, and then you've got to figure out who Goliath was, right? I mean, Goliath is a giant, and he's in Philistia, so that would have been somewhere
in the Canaanite,
in Canaanite
strongholds,
territory, right? So, yeah.
Have you been watching House of David?
Yeah,
dude,
on Amazon Prime.
That's really good. Yeah, really good. Oh, I love it. Yeah,
man. I love how they portray Goliath too. They do such a good job with that. Yeah. Did you see the David cartoon?
I didn't.
It's not a cartoon. I guess it's computer
my mom
animated.
Took the boys to go see it, but
yeah, I took my kids. My kids loved it. So
yeah.
Phil Wickham is David. Did you know that?
I did not.
I know you do. So
good.
Okay. Yeah. So a lot of stuff going on in Genesis 6, 1 through 8, right? And even in the first few chapters of Genesis, after Genesis 3, right, there's the fall in Genesis 3. So between Genesis 3 and Genesis 6, we're given clues throughout the genealogies of Adam up until the days of Noah, a little bit of what life was like before the flood. So we'll go through each of these. We've got a couple of them, but one of the things that we see in the genealogies is there was extreme longevity. So people lived a long time. Genesis 5:27 says altogether Methuselah, which I guess was Noah's grandfather, lived a total of 969 years, and then he died. So humans regularly lived to be 800 or 900 years old, according to the book of Genesis. And so questioning why, speculating why, some scholars have pointed a combination of perhaps genetic purity. There's fewer accumulated mutations because this is so close to creation. And then some have pointed to maybe a protective atmospheric environment. But, from what we read in Genesis 6, it was just kind of, until God decided to change it, that's the way it was, right? Until God said 120 years, that's going to be the lifespan. So one of the implications of this is that, somebody that is in their 60s who's worked a career or worked a trade, we consider that person a master, right? Somebody's a carpenter in their 60s. They've been doing it for 40, 50 years, right?
Yeah.
Imagine somebody in their 600s and 700s, like how many trades, right? I mean, how many skills, how many trades, how many life experiences would a person like that have gathered?
Yeah, your bank of knowledge and experience and wisdom would be just unbelievable. Yeah. That's
so. I mean, if you think about if humans today live for 900 years, would society become more wise through experience, or would power and wealth simply become more concentrated in the hands of the few people who were the ancients on Earth?
That's a good question.
There would be a monopoly up at the top, and maybe that's kind of the wickedness thing. This is why God decided to change the lifespan, or, the world obviously didn't get better. It got worse because of it.
Have you seen the guy, Brian Johnson? He's like 47-year-old.
Yeah.
Guy. He's like he wrote that book or something like that. Don't Die.
Yes.
I
saw the documentary about him on Netflix.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
That guy, I mean, he literally spends all day long doing health and wellness stuff.
Yeah, he
All day
spends
long.
$2 million a year on his diet and health protocol
Golly,
alone.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's basically living to stay alive.
Yeah.
That's what he's doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Super
And
interesting.
Yeah, it'd be interesting
But
to see how long he lives.
He's going to die. Like
He's
you know,
obviously, yeah, he's gonna die.
like it's but it's just so interesting that we strive so hard and spend so much money doing things and very selfishly to try to live forever. And this guy, you can just see the sadness in him. It's just like he's swimming upstream in this aging thing.
Yeah, man.
And it's it's just like the book of Genesis says 120 years. That's all you got.
Yep. Man. So yeah, before the 120 years, that's an interesting thing to think through, what that would have looked like. Another thing that we see before the flood is in verse 1 of Genesis 6, when human beings begin to increase in number on the earth and daughters were born to them. So because people would have lived for centuries, it would probably be that they were fertile longer. So the global population would have been able to explode in a very short amount of time. So if families have children over a 400-year span, the population would have been able to reach into the billions a lot quicker than perhaps we've thought. Right?
That's crazy. Yeah.
So I think when we think of like the ancient world, we think of sparsely populated, deserts and caves and stuff like that, but it could have been more crowded and urbanized than the Roman Empire at its peak.
Yeah.
So do you think it was like a one big massive global city, or do you think people were kind of scattered in isolated pockets?
I don't know. That's a really good question. Yeah, you look at I mean, anthropologists look at like the movement of people groups, and it seems like there's right now we're in a phase of like urbanization. So maybe people are getting more and more cloistered into urban centers. So maybe it would have been like massive urban centers kind of like spread out around the globe. I don't know. Maybe that's what humans do. I think is maybe just as, I don't know. There's different reasons why people are becoming more urbanized, but, sometimes it's for security or, communal living, maybe there's handouts, things like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. It's interesting to speculate.
Yeah, it is. I think with that though, something we see in Genesis 4 is that there were technological advances. Genesis 4:22 says Zula also had a son, Tubal-Cain. So if you're looking to name your kids, Tubal-Cain's a good name. So, hey, come here, Tubal-Cain. And Tubal-Cain is mentioned in Genesis as someone who forged all kinds of tools out of bronze and iron. So again, if someone has in their brain people living in caves using rocks as tools, Book of Genesis would say, actually, no, they would have possessed industrial capabilities. This is saying they would have worked with iron and they would have worked with bronze. They would have made very complex tools. I have a friend, Joe Brown. He's a listener to this podcast. So Joe Brown, shout out to you, Joe Brown. And he's a master blacksmith. But can you imagine how well somebody could learn a trade like that if they've been doing it for 700 years? So what kind of high-level engineering and craftsmanship was on the earth before it was completely destroyed by the flood? We'll never know, right? Because the Bible gives us little hints, but I mean, gosh, what kind of modern technologies might they have developed before the flood that had to be rediscovered or reinvented? I mean, it's interesting to think through, right?
Yeah.
Do you think they had air fryers?
I was just thinking about. They probably had a Hemi. They probably invented a Hemi.
A Dodge.
Dodge Hemi or inline
Dodge
six. That motor was bulletproof, man.
I tell you, man, Tubal-Cain, he'd be out there making a Hemi. I don't think Tubal-Cain made a Hemi.
Mm.
But it's an interesting thing to think about. Technology, innovation, perhaps more advanced technology than maybe that we even think, because the Bible does say that they worked with iron and bronze and made all kinds of tools out of iron and bronze. They lived a long time. You and I years ago did a podcast episode about the book of Enoch and how the book of Enoch kind of describes the days of Noah before the flood and talks about the watchers, this angelic class, teaching some of the people on the earth all sorts of different craftsmanship and things like that, which is a fascinating thing to think through.
Mm-hmm.
That perhaps some of the technological advances could have been due to this supernatural element involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you remember much about that? I'm trying to remember
kind
of what we said about that.
Yeah, like there was different facets of like divine impartation of different skills and knowledge and stuff, like like medicinal and technological and stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's a case to be made for these supernatural beings teaching some of the early humans before the flood also psychedelics, which is a crazy thing to think about, that perhaps psychedelics played into some of the ways that people were using their discoveries, if you will, in plants and herbs and things like that. So
yeah. I mean, even in modern times, there's like gobs and gobs of inventors and artists and stuff that do their best work while tripping on psychedelics. I mean, that's a known thing. But don't do that.
Yes, don't do that. If you hear anything from our podcast, just don't do that.
But Bill Gates maybe is one of the Nephilim. I don't know. Stacy and I have this inside joke.
You heard it here.
Stacy and I have this inside joke that whenever someone like invents something or there's like, some new big breakthrough, Stacy and I would look at each other and we go, "It's the Nephilim."
I will say this. Listen, I was thinking all about the world before the flood, after going to the Ark Encounter, and the Nephilim and the giants of Earth and all that stuff, right? And then the March Madness basketball tournament started last weekend.
Yeah.
And the University of Florida had a 19-year-old player who was 7'9".
Wow.
And the first thing I could think of is,
he's
that
one
kid's
of them.
definitely Nephilim.
But you have to say it like with a southern accent.
Man, there's a Nephilim right there. I tell you what he is.
We'll go a step further and be like, they got portals everywhere. They got portals. They can pop out of nowhere, and them Nephilim came.
Them Nephilim.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of innovation and possible psychedelics, there was also musical and artistic sophistication. So Genesis 4:21 talks about a character by the name of Jubal, and he was the father of all who play stringed instruments and pipes. So if you have it in your mind that ancient people are just beating on a drum, that's all they're doing, probably not. Stringed instruments, pan flutes, pipes, little Jethro Tull action going on, right? So complex music, right? Yeah. So this like secular narrative that early humans were primitive cavemen that were just focused on survival. Well, no, not really. Bible says they had tools, they had technology, they had musical and artistic sophistication. There would have been a high premium, it seems, placed on these kinds of things, which is a really interesting thing to think through.
I bet the Nephilim invented the recorder just to plague parents.
Probably, yeah. It's probably demonically inspired, I would think. Yeah. We also read in Genesis 2:6, this is before the fall, but some would say this continued after the fall as well, that there was kind of a greenhouse climate on the earth. Genesis 2:6 said streams, or a mist, as some translations say, came up from the earth and watered the whole surface of the ground. So the earth likely experienced a very temperate tropical climate without extreme weather or harsh seasons that we see today. And so some would say that the reason people had longer lifespan, the reason that, perhaps the world was the way it was, is that the waters above the firmament, as Genesis 1:7 says, created this vapor canopy that filtered radiation and regulated temperature. So no polar ice caps, no hurricanes, no deserts. The whole planet was lush and the whole planet was habitable.
So it would have been like a giant, like hyperbaric chamber, like just super high oxygen content. Like,
I guess, yeah. Like the whole vapor canopy, greenhouse climate idea, right? It probably would have changed the way, I think, and maybe this is interesting to unpack, the way that early humans understood the concept of time or the rhythm of life. Because you don't have winter, you don't have fall, you don't have spring. It's just summer around the clock, right? Or not even summer, just like a perfectly organized, like an ideal environment all the time, right?
Yeah. And I guess they say that went away because later in Genesis 6, verse 10 and 11, on the 17th day of the second month, the fountains of the great deep were broken up and the windows of the sky were open and it rained on the earth for 40. So basically, the theory is
that was the first time it had rained. Yeah.
Yeah, the theory is that that firmament, that was that layer of suspended water, came to the earth. And so that's why that's not there anymore. Is kind of one of the theories of, that would impact lifespans and everything else, and life on Earth as we know it would kind of grow, get corrupted because of that. It's not the ideal anymore. So it's interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So greenhouse effect is a possible, that could be what the scriptures are describing. But then that kind of leads us to this idea of the Nephilim or the mighty men, right? So we've read that verse about the Nephilim on the earth of these days. So where it says the heroes of old, men of renown, if you cross-reference that like we did earlier with other mentions of this type of creature in the Bible, it would be a race of giants or superhuman individuals who kind of dominated the social and political landscape. I think that's what the text is getting at when it says men of renown, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of an interesting to think of even in our day of like celebrity and worship of athletes. You know what I mean? It almost seems like the world was dominated by these demigods, right? These legendary figures that became the subject of almost. It's such an interesting phrase. I don't know what you think about that. Heroes of old, men of renown. Like, what do you think that means? I guess is the $1 million question.
Yeah. They probably would have been like epic, like fighters and warriors and battles. To have them on your side, which I think the House of David is cool. How it kind of writes that into. Goliath is being approached by the Philistines to help defeat the children of Israel. I think it's a really cool storyline they kind of weave there. But yeah, they would have been like people you want on your side, I guess. They would have been people that would have been physically just domineering. So yeah.
Do you think they were like in control, like politically speaking? Do you think that they would have been like the kings, or they would have been like the mascots of a civilization? So
possibly, yeah.
Lived in almost like a godlike way.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder where we kind of like origin of some of the Greek mythological characters that we have? Like, maybe that's what's the word? Vestigial, like collective memory of that kind of popping back up in Greek mythology. I don't know.
Right. Like the Titans.
Yeah.
Not the Tennessee Titans that are the worst football team in the NFL, but the Titans, like demigods, half god, half man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such an interesting thing to think through. What does that mean? They were men of renown, heroes of old. But I think that one implication of it, and I think this is fascinating to think through, is that the value was placed on people who had physical stature, physical strength, or physical beauty, probably not on people who had character and even competence.
Yeah.
Or if it was competence in like war or violence or something like that, right?
This is interesting. Looking at the Hebrew word to describe there, it's using for heroes, it's ha-giborim, which is actually the root of my name, Gabriel, by the way.
Is holy, is that a root of holy
no,
too? Like
it's Gibor means like mighty, champion, heroic figure. It's actually David selects these military champions in 2 Samuel 23. He calls them his mighty men, his Giborim. But also, if you look at Genesis 10:8, Nimrod is called a Gibor. And Nimrod was a tyrant, powerful ruler, that kind of that essence. So yeah, these would have been like Giborim. They would have been all of those,
Interesting.
That's interesting. Yeah. And so when it says the men of renown, it's Anoshe Hashem, which is like literally men of the name. Yeah.
Yeah.
Men with a name. So men with like
a reputation,
a legacy,
a celebrity.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And that kind of leads into the next point. It would have been a time of rampant, unchecked violence. Verse 11 of Genesis 6 says the earth was corrupt in God's sight and full of violence. So lawlessness, brutality, the abuse of power. Some Bible scholars would say there was no real civil government, that wasn't until Genesis 9 when that showed up. So the influence of the Nephilim, the men of renown, the heroes, could have been a system of basically the one with the biggest swords and the strongest warrior. Those are the ones that are that are right. So you kill somebody and make them submit. Yeah. There you go. Might makes right,
I hope you don't mind me unpacking a couple of these words again, but these are just, there's such rich words that when it says in verse 11, the earth was corrupt before God, it uses the Hebrew shachat, which is the same word used to describe the destroyer in Exodus 12:23, which is that destroyer that goes around and looks for those who do not have the blood of the lamb on their doorposts.
Interesting, like the angel of death type thing.
Yep, the destroyer. So retroactively apply that back to verse 11. The earth was in a state of destruction before God, I guess you could say. It's corrupt. And then it goes on, and the earth was filled with, it's using the Hebrew word Hamas, which, yes, if that sounds familiar, that's the name of that's the name of the terrorist organization that was popularly voted and elected into power in the Gaza Strip in 2008-ish. But Hamas is like, it's not just like violence, it's the idea of like unsolicited, unexpected violence. So like I've heard it described as like the most simplistic terms would be a chicken is doing his thing looking for food, her thing looking for food, and a hawk swooping out of a tree and grabbing the chicken and bringing it to the ground and killing it. Like it's just, that's what Hamas, the essence of it is, which is what we saw Hamas do in October 7th to
Right.
civilians in Israel. It's like this unprovoked, like very unexpected, swift violence. And that's what God says filled the earth, which is fascinating because that sounds like a really uninhabitable place.
Yeah, for sure. Golly.
But it's weird because like later in the Gospels, Jesus says that as in the days of Noah, so will it be the coming of the Son of Man. And he describes this kind of almost like peaceful picture because he says
they were eating and drinking and giving in marriage.
Yeah. And it's like, they were just doing their thing and they were having, picnics and walks in the parks and stuff. But it's weird because like this is painting almost like a different sounding picture. Like the earth was corrupt. And it was just filled with this unsolicited, unwarranted violence.
I wonder if it's kind of both in the sense of what Jesus is saying is even though the earth was so corrupt and so awful and so violent, people were completely indifferent and checked out. It's kind of like, if it doesn't affect me or impact me, man, let's eat, drink, and be merry, right? The new iPhone just came out and there's a new series on Netflix, so let's go binge.
Yeah.
New series on Netflix and get drunk. Who cares, right?
Right. Yeah. And it's like, okay, let's go on with our lives while this great injustice and this great violence is happening. Yeah, I think we should be people who rebuke or call out unsolicited violence, unwarranted violence towards innocent human beings whenever it happens, and say, I want nothing to do with that. That is violent and that is unwarranted. And that goes from like genocides to abortions, and I think here in the United States of America, that's a big topic. It's been lately, and we just did a podcast on it last episode. It was about abortion, and what a better example of Hamas. It's just this like very violent act of taking something that is completely defenseless in a space that represents safety and mercy and protection, and killing it, and it's like, that is Hamas, right?
And doing it for the sake of personal convenience,
gain,
basically.
And profit by some of these companies that do it. Massive profit.
But
we go on drinking and eating and giving in marriage. It's like we're just kind of like,
doesn't affect me. So what's the big deal, right? So interesting. Yeah. Another aspect, and this is, I think, kind of interesting, maybe a minor little detail, is that humanity was intended before the flood to eat a plant-based diet. That eating meat was not sanctioned by God until after the flood. So doesn't mean people didn't eat meat. I'm sure because people were violent, people were wicked, a lot of people are eating meat, right? But it kind of seems that God did not give humanity the freedom to eat meat until after the flood, Genesis 9.
They were all Seventh-day Adventists. No, just kidding.
Seventh-day Adventists, yeah, exactly. Vegetarians.
We're going to get an email now. You're there in Seventh-day Adventist country. I'm
there you go.
Lock your door.
Another one is this is before the Tower of Babel, so there would have been one language, right?
Yeah.
So a perfect global communication. There's no foreigners. Those are translation barriers. There's cooperation. So that would have allowed humanity to advance a lot further, but it also would have allowed people to sin a lot faster, right? So I think the big question is, if the entire world spoke one language, would this lead to like a golden age of cooperation and progress? Or would it simply make it easier for corruption and violence and bloodshed and vice and exploitation to happen? Right?
Yeah, just like the internet is like this amoral thing. It's a tool that humans use. But look at the great evil that has come out of that, and so like if all of our languages are the same, it's like, oh, that would be great. We would solve solve world hunger, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about all these different things, these aspects pre-flood, aspects of civilization, is like we're all kind of like trying to get back to some of these things.
Sure.
We're hyper focused on like the climate. We're hyper focused on like industry and innovation and growth and longevity. We're very interested. You know, the new AirPods came out, or whatever they're called, the earbuds.
Yeah. AirPods.
That translate on the fly, so someone can talk to you in a different language and they translate
holy
it
cow.
into your ear.
That's crazy. Yeah.
So we're focused on like getting language back to singularity, like
right.
But that's interesting. Yeah. We as humans just gravitate towards that. We're like, let's fix,
as in the days of Noah, so will it be before the coming of the Son of Man, right? I mean, that's kind of an interesting thing that Jesus prophesied, and we're kind of seeing that, right?
But what's interesting is, you know, we go back, when we go to forward, way forward to Acts chapter 2, we see a slight reversal of the Tower of Babel, but it's on God's terms. He's like, sure, I'm going to undo what I did in a way so that the message of my kingdom can go forth.
Right. So there's a true unity, and it's a unity to proclaim the message of the Messiah, not a unity so that the earth can sin and rebel against God. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So an aspect that we've talked about too, that would have been not just something that you see in Genesis, but we also mentioned the book of Enoch, which is not in the biblical canon. This would have been something that was written later, but it recorded kind of the oral history of what the Jews believed would have happened during these days. But this idea of spiritual corruption and direct demonic interference in human affairs. So the idea that perhaps, you know, it says the sons of God saw the daughters of human were beautiful in Genesis 6. Book of Enoch suggests the watchers, this angelic class, are like, you know, having some sort of interaction with humans and teaching them things. Maybe the boundary between the spiritual and physical realm was a lot more porous, so that fallen angels are interacting with humans in a way that leads to them actually corrupting the human lineage. Right. And ultimately, this is an attempt by these fallen angels to prevent the seed of the woman, which is prophesied in Genesis 3. That's the Messiah, from being born, right? The seed of the woman that will crush the head of the serpent. So it seems like that there was this spiritual corruption and this like boundary crossing from the physical into the spiritual. There was a desire to connect with the spiritual in an illegitimate way that led to a lot of demonic interaction, I guess. So I think a question that's asked is, do we see that going on today?
Yeah, definitely. And Paul speaks of this in 1 Timothy 4:1. He says that in the latter days there would be deceiving spirits and doctrines of demons. Yeah, we see this hyperfixation on witchcraft, spiritualism, channeling, necromancy. We see this hyperfixation on, you know, occultism, contact with the spiritual realm, the unseen realm. We see all that today, I think, and I think materialism and secularism did its best to try to suppress that desire and that yearning in humanity. But I think that is starting to wear off, and we're seeing more and more people are like, hey, there is a spiritual realm. Sure. But they're going about it the wrong way, the unsanctioned way, I guess you could say.
Well, I think the renewed interest in psychedelics in the younger generation is probably a result of that. This desire and hunger for access to the spiritual realm. And some of the stuff that you encounter people talking about after they've done psychedelics is insane. Yeah. Like having contact with, you know, these non-physical beings.
Spirit guides and stuff.
Yeah. There was a guy I met that was talking to me about, before he became a Christian, he did astral projecting. Which is this new age practice of basically your spirit being leaving your body and floating in the spirit world. Yeah. And he was sitting with some guru in some new age place learning how to do this astral projecting, and he was successful at doing it. But then when he was in this kind of spiritual space, he talked about encountering these malevolent spiritual beings.
Yeah.
And he couldn't believe it. And in his mind, he's going, oh my gosh, this was supposed to be this like access in this doorway to this amazing spiritual world. And now all that stuff I was taught in Sunday school about demons and angels is true.
Yeah.
And so that led to him coming to faith in Christ. But it's interesting to me the amount of fascination that people are having with things like psychedelics and astral projection. And
yeah. I mean, you listen to Joe Rogan for 5 minutes, he's going to talk about one of those
DMT.
things.
Yeah.
He's very pro psychedelics and opening up neural pathways that have never been opened and all kinds of stuff. But
for sure.
And that's like, and I bring that up because he is extremely influential in the United States of America.
Yep.
In the world, I would say.
Yeah. Another aspect would be geographic unity, in the sense there was probably not the continents as we have today. Genesis 1:9 said, and God said, let the water under the sky be gathered to one place and let dry ground appear. So Pangea, right? One single massive supercontinent. And so what that means for humanity is that humanity could basically explore and walk to any part of this massive landmass. And so people were probably explorers, and people had access to places that they weren't born in. And so kind of an interesting thing to think through. But really, I think the bent of Genesis 6:1-8 is that this was a time of total spiritual depravity. That verse you kind of unpacked for us, Gabe, earlier, the Lord saw that every inclination or every
imagining,
scheming, plotting, scheming, So there was a rot, a moral rot, a moral corruption. There was not the structure of the law. There wasn't any sort of restraint at all. And so sin basically reached its full logical conclusion in the human heart. And we saw societal rot on a scale that was so great that God said, we've got to start over. So that's a sobering thing to think about. This is what happens when humanity pursues their own heart, right? So going back as we close to that verse that you mentioned that Jesus spoke of, as the days of Noah were, so the coming of the Son of Man will be. For in those days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage until the day Noah boarded the ark. They didn't know until the flood came and swept them all away. This is the way the coming of the Son of Man will be. What are some kinds of things that we're seeing today that just really strike you as, wow, that's exactly like the way things were in the days of Noah?
Yeah. Well, I see us kind of trying as humanity to undo all the things that were put into effect as a result of the flood. All these things that were pre-flood, like we talked about, it seems like even down to like the geographic unity, we're seeing like, a desire to want to be able to communicate at the speed of light with anyone around the world, and then have that language barrier removed. So I think we definitely see that going on, but we also see that the imaginings of man are polluted, they're corrupted, and the earth is still full of Hamas. It's still full of this violent tendency.
Yeah. No, for sure. I think it's fascinating to think through things like the men of renown. We have men and women of renown in our day and age. And a lot of times the men and women of renown in our day and age are renowned, they're well known, not for their character or their competence, but rather for their physical prowess, right? So influencers, global celebrities, athletes, movie stars, right? I think that's pretty interesting to think through, that could be a sign of moral rot when we begin to worship not God, but lesser creatures as gods is a sign of idolatry on a large scale. I think the genetic corruption you read of in Genesis 6, I'm not saying that we have anything like the Nephilim on Earth today, but I think it's pretty interesting how you were mentioning Brian Johnson earlier. This guy who's essentially trying to embark on this like project of immortality and the transhumanism movement, like almost like I want to say cyborgs, but kind of like that as well, right?
Yeah.
And gene editing and like, you know, even people talking about being able to take a consciousness and upload it into a some sort of a, I don't want to say a robot, but there's all sorts of fascinations with, can we become more than just the human beings that we were created to be?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think we'll see in our lifetime the idea, a whole industry spring up of like projecting your consciousness into the cloud, basically.
Right. Yeah. That's what I was trying to say earlier.
Yeah. So like you'll go into this whole other realm and be able to interact with like someone else, you're a lost loved one or something like that, and they know enough information about them that they do a really, really good job of. And you know, and I could see how that could be used in a lot of bad ways, by very powerful people, to entice you into that realm, essentially. Yeah. But yeah, you know, we think we have like new problems, but we don't. We just have the same problems we did since. You know, these pages in Genesis, these very ancient pages that we're reading from, that go back thousands of years. It's like, man, the problems are still there.
Yeah. And on top of all of the moral rot and all of the idolatry and all of the, you know, advances in technology and science, we're seeing what they saw, and that was spiritual apathy coupled with a love of pleasure and consumerism. And in the middle of it all, we're told that there was a righteous man named Noah.
Yeah. He was righteous in his generation.
Yeah. So I guess kind of as we end this episode and set up for the next one, where we talk more about Noah, what kind of instruction does that give us when we see the example of Noah for how we're to be?
Well, I think Noah is a great example of how believers are to live as this righteous minority, awaiting and expecting both judgment and deliverance. And I think Noah is, the book of Genesis sets him up as someone who is like, when everything else around you is going to pot, build a boat and save your family. And at the same time, it's not like, you know, I think it's 2 Peter 2. Noah is called a preacher of righteousness. So at the same time, he's heralding righteousness. He's heralding truth. He's heralding repentance in both deed and in word. But at the same time, he's like driving nails into pieces of wood, you know, to prepare for that coming judgment. So I think that sets a good example for us to look at that and say, hey, it doesn't matter what's going on outside my door. And inside this ark, we are going to live this culture and be ready for a judgment, be ready for deliverance at the same time.
Yeah, no, that's very well put. I think that's what I see as the example we're given is, man, the closer we get to the return of Christ, the more moral rot is going to come, but we have to be willing to say, not in my house. Right. And let's just go along with it, use it as an excuse for how things, you know, we're influenced by it. No, we're supposed to be, like you said, create a culture that's different and set apart in the midst of it. And I think that's so hard for us as Christians because we get so wrapped up in trying to be accepted and loved by the world around us. And we really miss the instructions we're given anytime we do that. So interesting stuff. So
yeah, where do we go with the next episode?
Yeah,
three different parts. You said.
Well, yeah, we'll do 3 parts next time. We'll talk about the flood itself, and the ark and Noah and what all that meant, what that looked like, and then we'll talk about life after the flood. So
cool. Maybe I'll ask Noah to be a guest on that one. Maybe he can give us his perspective.
Yeah. He can grow a beard between now and then. You think he can grow a beard? Is that your genes or Stacy's?
I think it's just 17-year-old not being a full-grown man yet.
There's no excuse. I had a beard at 17.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of a mustache going on, but
that's
for those who don't know, my son is Noah, 17 years old. Is
it a crustache or a mustache?
It's like a peach fuzz stash.
You know what? Mighty things have small beginnings.
They do.
So, Noah, let it grow. Let it grow, my friend. So, well, if you have any questions, comments, or maybe helpful beard growing or mustache growing tips, send us an email, beardsandbiblepodcast@gmail.com. Leave us a YouTube comment or send us a message on Facebook. And as always, we will see you guys next time.